Okay, so today we're talking about a name that is, let's be honest, basically a synonym for genius, Albert Einstein. But his story, it's so much more complex and frankly way more inspiring than just a famous equation. We're going to explore the mind that didn't just understand the universe, but actually bent our entire perception of it. And that really brings us to the wild central question of this whole story. How on earth did a guy working a seemingly normal job, a clerk at a patent office, completely redefine reality as we know it? You see, this wasn't some story about a born genius who had it all figured out. This was the journey of a total, and I mean total, unlikely revolutionary. To really understand the man, we have to go right back to the start. And Einstein's beginning was, well, surprisingly unremarkable. In fact, you could say it was anything but a straight line to greatness. And this just shows you the incredible contrast in young Einstein. On the one hand, you have the child. He was slow to speak, which actually worried his family. He was seen as a bit of a loner, always resisting the strict authority of his teachers. But on the other side, the genius within was already bubbling up. See, that resistance to authority, it was fueled by some serious independent thinking. And his quiet, isolated nature, it gave him this amazing space to develop an ability to visualize incredibly complex problems, all driven by this just insatiable curiosity. So this independent streak totally defined his education. He absolutely could not stand rote memorization. For him, learning wasn't about just spitting back facts. It was about truly understanding the deep, universal laws that make everything tick. And of course, this put him on a collision course with his more authoritarian teachers. But it was that exact rebellious spirit that let him soar in math and physics, because he was asking the questions nobody else even thought to ask. So after this, let's call it unconventional education, Einstein finds himself in a pretty humble job. And then everything changes. This period builds into what scientists now call his annus mirabilis, his miracle year. 1905. Just think about that. 1 year. That's all it took to completely change the course of science forever. This single year marks one of the most incredible intellectual leaps in all of human history, and it all came from just one person. And this is the part of the story that just blows my mind. He wasn't at some fancy university with unlimited resources. No, he was working as a patent clerk in Bern, Switzerland, looking at other people's inventions all day. And then, in his spare time, he was just, quietly rewriting the laws of the entire universe. I mean, just look at what he produced. 4 papers that were absolute game changers. He introduced special relativity, forever weaving space and time together. He explained the photoelectric effect, which helped kickstart quantum theory. He offered solid proof that atoms actually exist. And of course, he gave us the most famous equation in history, showing that deep, powerful connection between mass and energy. Seriously, any one of these would have been a career-defining achievement. Einstein did all 4 in 1 year. So the miracle year launched him onto the world stage. But believe it or not, his greatest work was still ahead of him. This next chapter of his life saw him tackle the very fabric of the cosmos, all while trying to navigate a world that was getting more and more conflicted. Right, so 10 years after that miracle year, he unveils his masterpiece, general relativity. And here's the key idea. He completely reimagined gravity. It wasn't some mysterious force pulling things together. No. He proposed that huge objects, like planets and stars, they literally bend and warp the fabric of space and time around them. And that curvature, that's what we feel as gravity. Mind-bending stuff. And this is how he became a superstar. He published the theory in 1915, but it was 1919 when the whole world suddenly paid attention. During a solar eclipse, astronomers saw that starlight actually bent as it passed the sun, just like he predicted. All of a sudden, Einstein wasn't just some respected physicist. He was an international icon, the face of human genius. But here's the thing. Behind all that public triumph, his life was filled with deep personal turmoil. I mean, while he was being celebrated all over the world and winning the Nobel Prize, his personal life was really tough. A difficult marriage and divorce, complicated family dynamics, and the unbelievable pressure of navigating a world that was just spiraling into political chaos. And that chaos often put him right in the middle of the storm. His pacifist views during World War I, not popular. As a very prominent Jewish intellectual, he became a target when Nazism began to rise in Germany, which forced him to flee to the United States in 1933. And even in the US, his strong stance against nuclear weapons often put him in conflict with the authorities. but he never, ever shied away from controversy if it meant standing up for what he believed in. So what do you do with all of that? What is the ultimate legacy of a mind like his? Well, in his later years, it became crystal clear that his impact would reach far, far beyond the world of physics. His impact was just everywhere. I mean, yes, the scientific contributions are massive, obviously, but that's not the whole story. His ideas fundamentally changed philosophy, our very sense of what reality is. His actions and his voice helped shape society, and his unique way of seeing the world even bled into art and culture. And this is really the crucial, final act of his life. He knew the power his voice now carried, and he used it, not for himself, but to champion humanitarian causes. He really became a kind of moral conscience for the world, speaking out with so much passion for peace, for civil rights, and for a world built on understanding instead of conflict. Which leaves us with this really profound question to think about. When you look at his entire life, from that defiant kid in school to the world-famous activist, was his genius just a product of his incredible intellect? Or was it just as much born from the courage to question everything, to challenge authority, and to stand by his beliefs no matter what it cost him? Ultimately, Einstein's story really shows us that true genius is probably a fusion of both. He didn't just understand the universe. He fundamentally changed the way we see ourselves inside of it. He gave us new physics, sure, but he also gave us a new perspective on our place in the cosmos, a legacy of wonder, of curiosity, and of courage that will, without a doubt, inspire all of us for centuries to come.